Cappy, the weird hat ghost that you randomly encounter at the start of Super Mario Odyssey. Now, as you know, he's quite awesome. You can do all kinds of weird abilities and even take over almost everything in sight, which opens the door to a ton of cool things. But will Cappy ever return to the series again? Now, as we all know, he made his debut in the new Nintendo Switch Mario title and assists you in various ways. Cappy is a Bonneter, originally from the Cap Kingdom, and joins Mario in order to rescue his little sister, Tiara, after she was kidnapped by Bowser. He plays a crucial role in how this entire game functions. If you would remove Mario's hat, then it would all fall apart. He has a variety of uses after all, like attacks and defensive measures, allowing Mario to defeat enemies at a distance and can destroy or reflect various projectiles. Besides that, the most important feature is capturing enemies and objects, of course, so you can use them to continue the level. A lot of parts of the games are completely made for certain beings, like a bullet bill for example. Without them, you can't reach the end. And even more important than that is the movement options that Cappy gives you. The amount of different jumps that you can perform now is insane. Clearly, he's incredibly important for this game. However, how will the next game in the series deal with this? The concepts in this game open the door to a lot of cool new things that developers could play around with. Besides that, a ton of mechanics and ideas seen in this game were loved by diehard fans. So do they want to, or even can they, move away from this formula? Well, that's an interesting question. It will completely decide if we will ever see Cappy in a Mario game again. And to find an answer to this, we need to turn back the clock a bit to a time period when Mario had a different weird companion. It's the year 2002 and a completely new Mario game has arrived. The infamous
Super Mario Sunshine! Woohoo!
which changed quite a lot compared to the previous. It was the first game where Mario extensively used an accessory to complete his missions. I'm talking about FLUDD. It features spray and hovering capabilities when it's first acquired. Other nozzles can also be unlocked to extend FLUDD's functionality, such as the rocket nozzle, which propels Mario high into the air, and the turbo nozzle that lets Mario sprint on land and water, as well as break down wooden doors. This weird, wacky, water-spraying backpack thing was so incredibly important in this game. Without it, you had no chance of beating half of the levels. Everything was built around this one mechanic, just like Cappy and Odyssey. If you compare the two, it's a very similar scenario. However, there's one thing that separates them. Super Mario Sunshine was nowhere near Odyssey when it came to its popularity. The GameCube title ended up selling 6.3 million copies in all those years. This sounds like a lot, but when you put it next to the newest Switch entry, then it's nothing. Super Mario Odyssey hasn't even been around for a year, and it already flew past the 10 million mark, so clearly it's doing a lot better. After the GameCube era, FLUDD never really returned. Some cameos here and there, but nothing major. This could have been because the game wasn't popular enough. The demand for more water-based adventures wasn't there. However, I bet a lot of people would love to see Cappy return in the next game, and it's even possible. Nintendo could do a million other things with this mechanic and create a completely new, breathtaking adventure. However, would Nintendo really do this? Well, actually, there's a huge chance that they will, and there are a couple of examples of this. After the commercial failure of the GameCube, Nintendo locked themselves away and brewed up a motion-based storm, the Wii. The console absolutely destroyed every type of competition on the planet, selling over 100 million of them. So of course Mario games appeared on this console, and there are two that come to mind immediately: New Super Mario Bros. And the Galaxy games. Just like Super Mario Odyssey, these games were a huge hit, with the space-themed games selling 20.4 million and the 2D one 82.4 million copies. And if you look up the sales, you can see that this was the case from the very start. Because of this, Nintendo made a million more games, trying to get as much money out of it as possible. They earned so much from this that you can't even comprehend how much it really is. Let's keep it on something similar to what Bowser has on his golden train in Super Mario 3D World. Now these games all use the same mechanics and overall theme. Nintendo just created new levels and added bits here and there. So maybe Super Mario Odyssey will also get a second game on the Switch, like they did with the Wii games, who got multiple even. They could reuse a lot of the assets, and the circumstances are very similar with both the consoles and the games both selling extremely well. So there is actually a real possibility of playing a Mario game again that has our trusted hat partner in it. But what would this new game look like? Will the plot be similar? Well, probably not. If you look at games like the Second Galaxy and Ultra Sun and Moon, you can see that they use similar assets, but completely change the world and story. Some characters might return, but a lot won't. New ones will probably even be added. In the Second Galaxy game, they introduce Yoshi, for example. Maybe if they make a second one, they would go for a sunshine-themed adventure, where you go back to Delfino, and maybe even the surrounding islands, which could function as the different kingdoms. Another option could be space. I discussed this before in a video about the DLC that could be galaxy themed. However, they could always use this idea for a completely new game that's a combination of the Galaxy and Odyssey game. Now, will either of these ever happen? Well, we have no clue at all. It's just two options that Nintendo has. Personally, I would love for either of these two to happen, and even a DLC would be enough. But when it comes down to it, I want another game with Cappy. There are so many enemies that you haven't really played around with. They introduced a ton of new ones after all, and a lot of the older ones weren't seen. So in the next one, they could easily introduce a whole new set of enemies to play with. So please, Nintendo, bring it back one more time. And then let it become a cult classic among the fans. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to watch more videos, then click those lovely annotations. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell button so you'll be notified. I would love that. And you could always suggest more video topics. I have a Discord and I have Twitter, so send me messages and stuff, and also Instagram.